Hi there. Today we're going to walk through the simple steps to do an annual tune-up on your small engine. An annual tune-up is important for a few reasons. It's going to keep your engine protected, it will help it start easily and run efficiently, and it may help you avoid some costly repairs down the road. The great thing about an annual tune-up on your engine is that you can do it yourself in just a few short minutes in the comfort of your garage or driveway. So today, like I mentioned, we'll cover a few steps, that being changing out your spark plug, changing out the air filter, changing the engine oil, and using a fresh fuel and fuel stabilizer each time you fill up the gas tank. Let's get started. Before we change the plug, or if we do any maintenance related work or any service work on our small engine, the very first thing we want to do is disconnect the spark plug wire here in the front of the engine. This is just for safety purposes to make sure that the engine doesn't accidentally fire, which could be dangerous. So always remember to remove this first. So let's get started on changing the plug out. We've got our existing plug here at the front of the engine at the base. To disconnect it, you've got a couple options. You can use a socket wrench that you probably already have at home, or I've got a spark plug wrench tool that is available as well. Just makes the job a little bit easier to disconnect that spark plug. So connect the wrench to the base of the plug here, get it on there good, and it's going to take a little bit of a firm turn just to loosen up that spark plug. You can see it come loose there. And from here I'm just going to unthread it by hand, just like you would a screw with a screwdriver. Comes out pretty easily. I've got our old spark plug here, and we're going to replace it with our new one. I've already gapped my plug, so I'm going to go ahead and connect it to the base of the engine here. Same way I took the old one off. A little bit of a tricky part here is just making sure that you get it lined up. Don't try to force it in there. Make sure the threads are threaded properly, and you'll know it'll go in real simple and real easily. Just twist it in, just like a screwdriver with a screw, like I mentioned before. And once you feel it getting snug, you can use this spark plug wrench or your socket wrench again to give it a little bit of a turn. Now, you want to make sure that you don't over tighten it. That's very important. Over tightening the spark plug could cause the seal on the plug to be damaged. So just get the plug tight and snug on the engine. Don't want to over tighten it. Again, you can get the proper torque ratings from your operator's manual if you have any questions on that one. So now that we've got the new plug attached to the engine, if I was wrapping up my service or maintenance work here, I would reattach the spark plug wire. But we're going to do a few other steps here before we finish, so I'll leave that disconnected for now. Let's move on to our air filter next. All right, we've got our spark plug changed. Our second step that we're going to do now is to replace our air filter. Again, this is another step that you want to do as part of your annual tune-up or before you start your cutting season. The air filter is going to help ensure that your engine stays free of any dirt or debris, which could cause it to overheat, potentially lead to some costly repairs. So again, replace that air filter before the season starts. So to replace the filter, on this engine it has a toolless air filter design, which is really convenient. All I need to do is lift up on the cap here. It pops right off, exposing the old air filter. And then all I need to do is take my new clean air filter and press it up against the cap here and put the cover back on. And my air filter is replaced. That easy. Now, depending on your engine design, again, this one had the toolless design. Some air filters may be covered with a air filter cap that requires a screwdriver to take off, but still relatively easy to get to, and very important step to make sure you take care of before you start your cutting season. So our air filter is swapped out. We're going to move over to the engine oil next. Our oil change is another very important step for the annual tune-up. Clean oil is going to ensure that all your engine components are protected and running optimally. So we're going to take out last year's old engine oil and replace it with some fresh clean oil. You got a couple options here. The first one being the more traditional method where you might tip the engine over on its side, put it up on some cinder blocks, find an oil pan, drain out the old oil, and hopefully find a place to recycle it. Or we've got a little bit of an easier method now with the oil extractor kit, which I'm going to show you how to use today. Makes the job really fast and really clean and easy, which is nice. So to get started, I'm going to take out my oil dipstick here, just remove it from the oil reservoir. Clean any debris that might be around the neck of the engine here, or the oil neck rather. Set the dipstick to the side. And then I'm going to use my oil extractor kit to take out the old engine oil. Just insert it all the way into the bottom of the oil reservoir and then begin pumping. And you can see the engine oil starting to come out. And I can set this to the side. The great thing about this little oil receptacle is you can take it to any Briggs and Stratton dealer. There's 12,000 of them around the country, and they'll recycle that oil for you, which is a great little convenient transportation device. So we'll set that to the side and we'll add in some fresh oil. Always best to check your operator's manual to determine which oil is best for your engine. For my engine that I've got here, I'm going to use a Briggs and Stratton SAE 30. Pretty typical for small engines, particularly on walk mowers like this one. So I've got an 18-ounce bottle here. I'm going to open it up and start adding in my oil. Don't need a funnel, but funnel makes the job a little bit easier and cleaner. The trick here is to add your oil in slowly and then checking the level throughout, because it's important not to overfill the oil reservoir. That could be just as damaging as not having enough clean oil in there. So we'll take it a little bit slow here and add in our oil and show you how to do a check in just a second. Okay, so I put about half the bottle in there. That's usually a good starting point. I'm going to take my funnel out here and then grab my dipstick that I had before, and we're going to give it a cleaning and then insert it back into the oil reservoir. So we want to give one final check to make sure that our oil level is proper. What you're looking for on the dipstick is to make sure that your oil level is between the two arrow indicators on the end of the dipstick, and this is looking pretty good right now. So it looks like our oil level is just right. I'm going to put it back in, and our oil step is complete. Okay, we've got our spark plug replaced, our air filter's been changed, and we took out the old engine oil and added in some fresh new engine oil. So our work on the engine itself is now complete. Remember, we disconnected our spark plug wire at the beginning of the tune-up. I'm going to need to replace that right now. Just reconnect that wire, and now the engine's ready to fire again when we need it. So the final step that I wanted to talk to you about as part of your annual tune-up is really something you need to be cognizant throughout the cutting season and even when you're storing your engine, and that's to use fresh fuel every time you're filling the gas can. What a lot of people don't realize is that gasoline can actually go stale in as little as 30 days. When gasoline goes stale, it oxidizes, which can lead to gumming and varnishing within the engine components. That can cause an engine not to start easily or even misfire or fail altogether. So you want to do whatever you can to keep that fuel fresh. What is really helpful is to use a fuel treatment or stabilizer product. What that does is it's going to ensure that the fresh gasoline that you're putting into your gas can is going to stay fresh and stable for several years. So our 5-in-1 advanced fuel treatment that you see here will actually keep your fuel fresh for up to 3 years. So if you're storing gasoline month to month or even season to season, you don't have to worry about that gasoline going stale and causing problems for your engine. Now that we've discussed our fuel, that wraps up our annual tune-up, our 4 steps that we need to take to get our engine ready for the cutting season. That being said, any part numbers you need for your spark plug, air filter, those can all be found in your operator's manual. And you can find those parts. They're available for order right now on Amazon.com. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great season.